The distress signal. The vast emptiness of space stretched out like an endless silent ocean. For centuries, humanity had watched the stars, dreaming of contact with other intelligent life. When that moment finally arrived, it came not with celebration, but with dread. Deep within the command center of Earth's interstellar defense network, Commander Ria Morales stood at the heart of a room buzzing with activity. Bright holographic screens projected a strange, repeating signal. The eerie sound filled the air, a mix of static, desperate cries and broken alien words. No one in the room needed a translator to understand the raw emotion behind it. It was a call for help. "Is the source confirmed?" Morales asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. A young technician nodded. "Yes, Commander. It's coming from the Vardox system. That's nearly at the edge of the known galaxy." Morales frowned. The Vardox system was a dead zone. No trade routes, no colonies, no record of any sentient species living there. Yet the signal was unmistakably intelligent and desperate. "What else do we know?" she pressed. Another officer, a grizzled veteran named Carter, stepped forward. "We've decoded parts of the signal. It's fragmented, but we picked up some visuals." With a nod, Carter brought up the images. The room fell silent. Holographic projections showed a world in ruins, buildings reduced to rubble, skies choked with ash, and countless bodies lying motionless. The alien inhabitants were humanoid, their features twisted in fear as they fled something unseen. The final frames showed colossal shadows descending from the sky before the feed abruptly cut off. The air in the room grew heavy. What could have done this? Someone whispered. Morales straightened, her mind racing. It's not what, it's who. And they're clearly still out there. The question that hung unspoken was the most terrifying of all. Why send the signal to Earth? The Deathworlders had earned their name long before humanity stepped onto the galactic stage. The rest of the galaxy saw humans as reckless, fearless, and dangerously adaptable. Deathworlders thrived on a planet teeming with predators, natural disasters, and harsh conditions. It was no surprise that when the galaxy faced its greatest threats, they often turned to Earth's fleets for help. But this signal felt different. It wasn't just a cry for aid, it was a warning. Morales turned to her team. "Prepare a response fleet. I want our best ships, our best soldiers. No one leaves until we have a full tactical plan." "Commander," Carter interrupted, "we don't know what we're walking into. This could be a trap." "I'm aware of the risks," Morales replied. "But if the roles were reversed, wouldn't we want someone to answer our call?" Hours later, the Deathworlder fleet stood ready. 30 of Earth's most advanced starships hovered in low orbit, their sleek designs gleaming under the light of the sun. Each vessel was armed to the teeth, prepared for whatever awaited them in the Vardox system. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Morales addressed her crew. "We're entering the unknown. Whatever destroyed that world might still be out there. Stay alert, trust your training, and remember why we're here. If there are survivors, we will find them. If there's a threat, we will neutralize it. Humanity stands for something more than survival. We stand for hope." The crew responded with a resounding, "Yes, Commander." As the countdown began for the fleet's jump into hyperspace, Morales allowed herself one last moment of doubt. What if Carter was right? What if this signal led them straight into a trap? The timer hit 0, and the ships vanished into the void. Far across the galaxy, the remnants of the Vardox civilization waited in silence. Their distress signal, though faint, still pulsed across the stars. But in the darkness beyond their shattered world, something stirred. Whatever had destroyed their home was not finished. And now, it was waiting. A shattered world. The fleet emerged from hyperspace with a ripple of energy, the stars of the Vardox system glowing faintly against the backdrop of the void. On the Resolute's bridge, Commander Morales stood with her arms crossed, her eyes locked on the main display. The image of the planet below sent a chill through the crew. The world was in ruins. Once, it must have been beautiful, oceans gleaming with reflected starlight, continents covered in green and gold. Now, it was a ghostly shadow of its former self. Blackened craters scared the surface, entire cities reduced to nothing but smoldering rubble. Great plumes of smoke rose from fissures in the ground, drifting into a darkened atmosphere, choked with ash. "Scanners," Morels asked, her voice tight. "Detecting faint life signs across the surface," reported Ensign Yara, the ship's sensor specialist. Pockets of survivors scattered across the ruins. She hesitated, her fingers tapping nervously at her console. "Commander, there's more." "Go on." Yara brought up another scan, this one showing strange readings in orbit. Massive energy signatures, remnants of some kind of weaponry. "It's off the charts. Whatever did this," she swallowed hard. "It wasn't just a planetary assault. It was extermination." The fleet maintained a defensive formation as small reconnaissance ships descended to the surface. Each team was equipped with advanced survival gear and weapons, prepared for hostile encounters. Morales remained aboard the Resolute, monitoring their progress with bated breath. Captain Adrian Kane, leader of one of the ground teams, activated his comm. "Landing complete. We're in the heart of what looks like a major city, or what's left of it." The camera feed from Kane's helmet flickered to life on the bridge's main display. It revealed a scene straight out of a nightmare. Towers toppled like fallen trees, streets cracked open and filled with debris, and buildings hollowed out by fire. "Signs of life?" Morales asked. "Not here," Kane replied grimly. "But we found something else. Tracks." The camera panned down to show deep, jagged grooves carved into the earth, as though massive machines had crawled across the surface. Beside the tracks lay the remains of alien vehicles and weapons, their designs unfamiliar and warped beyond recognition. "Whatever attacked this place," Kane said, "it wasn't just powerful, it was relentless." Hours later, Kane's team found their first survivors, a small group of aliens huddled in the basement of a crumbling structure. Their bodies were frail, their eyes hollow with fear and exhaustion. They spoke in a language that the fleet's universal translator struggled to process. After some adjustments, their leader, a thin creature with silver-gray skin and sharp, angular features, managed to convey their story. "We were thriving," the alien rasped, its voice trembling. "Our people lived in harmony for centuries. Then, they came." "Who came?" Kane pressed gently. The alien shuddered, its gaze darting to the shadows as if the memory alone could summon its tormentors. "We called them the Eaters of Suns, machines, but alive. They devour everything, our cities, our people, even the light from our star. They are endless." The room fell silent as the weight of the alien's words sank in. Back on the Resolute, Morales reviewed the ground team's findings. The survivors' descriptions matched the remnants of the fleet they had encountered upon arrival. Twisted, pulsating ships that defied all known designs. Carter, the grizzled veteran, leaned against the bridge console. "Commander, these Eaters of Suns don't sound like any enemy we've faced before. If they're truly as unstoppable as the survivors claim." Morales cut him off. "We've faced impossible odds before. We'll adapt. We always do." Her words carried conviction, but doubt gnawed at her. Could even Deathworlders stand against something that consumed entire civilizations? As the fleet continued its analysis of the planet, sensors picked up a new signal. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there, movement on the outskirts of the system. "Commander," Yara said urgently, "I think we've got company." Morales turned to the main display. Emerging from the shadows of a distant gas giant, a formation of ships began to approach. Their hulls were dark and jagged, radiating a strange, ominous energy. The Eaters of Suns had arrived. First contact with the enemy. The alien ships approached in eerie silence, their jagged forms gliding through space like predators stalking their prey. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Morales stood frozen for a moment, staring at the display. The sight of the enemy vessels sent a chill through the entire crew. "Visuals," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing tension. The scream magnified the incoming fleet. The ships looked almost alive. Twisted, dark hulls that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Tendrils of energy crackled along their surfaces, and their movement was unnaturally fluid, like serpents swimming through the void. "Are they scanning us?" Morales asked. Yara, monitoring the sensors, shook her head. "No, Commander. They're not even trying to communicate. They're just advancing." The Deathworlder fleet shifted into a defensive formation, their weapon systems coming online. Morales knew they had to act fast. "Open fire," she commanded. The Resolute led the charge, its railguns and plasma cannons lighting up the dark expanse of space. The other ships followed suit, unleashing a storm of energy toward the alien fleet. The void exploded with light as the weapons struck their targets. For a moment, it seemed like the Deathworlders had the upper hand. Several enemy ships shattered under the onslaught, their twisted forms disintegrating into debris. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Morales didn't share the crew's relief. Something felt wrong. Then it happened. From the remaining alien ships, tendrils of dark energy lashed out, converging on the debris of their fallen comrades. Before the Deathworlders' eyes, the fragments began to reassemble, fusing together into new ships. The enemy fleet was regenerating. "They're repairing themselves," Carter shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "Not just repairing," Morales corrected grimly. "They're multiplying." The battle escalated quickly. The Deathworlders fought with everything they had, but the Eaters of Suns adapted to their tactics, their strange, living ships shrugging off more and more attacks. The once organized formation of the Deathworlder fleet began to splinter as commanders scrambled to deal with the relentless assault. On the Resolute, Morales remained calm, her mind racing for a solution. "Target their energy signatures," she ordered. "If we can disrupt whatever's powering them, we might stand a chance." The fleet adjusted its strategy, focusing fire on the pulsating cores of the alien ships. This time, the attacks had more effect. Several enemy vessels disintegrated completely, their energy signatures fading into nothing. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining alien ships began to emit a high-pitched signal, one that seemed to resonate deep in the bones of every crew member. "What's that sound?" Yara asked, covering her ears. Before anyone could answer, the alien fleet unleashed a new attack. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through space, striking several Deathworlder ships. The beams didn't just destroy, they disintegrated everything in their path, leaving nothing behind. The Resolute shook violently as one of the energy beams narrowly missed it. Alarms blared, and sparks flew from overloaded consoles. Morales gripped the edge of her station, her jaw clenched. "Status report," she barked. "We've lost 3 ships," Carter reported, his voice grim. "The Dauntless, the Endeavor, and the Pioneer. No survivors." Morales felt a pang of grief but pushed it aside. There was no time to mourn. "We need to regroup. Pull the fleet back and reestablish formation. We can't afford to lose anyone else." The remaining Deathworlder ships began to retreat, their weapons still firing as they tried to cover their escape. The alien fleet didn't pursue. Instead, the Eaters of Suns hovered in place, their dark forms pulsating with energy, as if they were feeding on the chaos they had created. Back aboard the Resolute, the mood was grim. The crew worked in tense silence, repairing systems and tending to the wounded. Morales stood at the center of it all, her mind replaying the battle over and over. "We need more data," she said finally. "Send a team to analyze the wreckage of the enemy ships we destroyed. I want to know what we're dealing with." Carter hesitated. "Commander, is it wise to stay here? Those things could attack again at any moment. If we leave now, we'll never figure out how to stop them," Morales replied. "This isn't just about the Vardock system anymore. If these things reach the core worlds..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The crew understood the stakes. As the Deathworlders worked to recover and regroup, a transmission came through from one of the ground teams, still on the surface of the ruined planet. "Commander," Kane's voice crackled over the comm. "We found something. It's big." "Big how?" Morales asked. "We've located what appears to be the remains of a forward base," Kane replied. "It's not Vardoxian. It matches the enemy's design. There's tech here, systems that might give us a clue about how they operate." Morales felt a flicker of hope. "Secure the site and prepare for extraction. We'll send reinforcements to your location." Kane's response was cut off by static. Then, a moment later, his voice returned, strained and urgent. "Commander, we're not alone down here." Shadows on the surface. The transmission from Kane's team ended abruptly, leaving the Resolute's bridge in stunned silence. Commander Morales leaned closer to the comm console, her voice sharp with urgency. "Kane, do you copy? What do you mean you're not alone?" For a moment, the only response was static. Then, Kane's voice came through again, barely audible over the background noise. "We've got movement. Something's here. It's not Vardoxian, and it's not friendly." On the surface, Kane's team huddled in the shadow of a massive alien structure. The black, spire-like building jutted out of the ground, its surface pulsing faintly with the same dark energy they'd seen in the enemy ships. The air was heavy, charged with an unnatural stillness that set everyone's nerves on edge. "Stay alert," Kane whispered, his pulse rifle raised. Around him, his squad formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons trained on the surrounding rubble. The movement had been subtle at first, shadows shifting in the corner of their vision, faint vibrations in the ground. Now it was unmistakable. Something was stalking them. "Contact, 3 o'clock," one of the soldiers shouted. Kane spun around just in time to see a sleek, insect-like machine dart between the ruins. Its body was black and segmented, its movements unnervingly fluid. Glowing red eyes fixed on the team, and a low, mechanical growl emanated from its core. "Open fire," Kane ordered. The squad unleashed a barrage of plasma rounds, the weapons lighting up the dim surroundings. The creature moved with incredible speed, dodging most of the shots. When a few rounds struck its carapace, it screeched and retaliated, firing a beam of concentrated energy that melted through the concrete barrier one of the soldiers was using as cover. "Fall back," Kane shouted, motioning toward the structure. "Get inside now." Inside the alien base, the atmosphere was even more oppressive. The walls seemed to hum with life, glowing faintly as if the building itself was aware of their presence. Strange, incomprehensible symbols lined the corridors, and the air was thick with the metallic tang of ozone. "This place is alive," one soldier muttered, his voice tinged with fear. "Stay focused," Kane replied, though he felt the same unease. They moved deeper into the structure, their footsteps echoing unnaturally in the vast, empty space. The sound of gunfire and mechanical screeches faded behind them, but the sense of being watched only grew stronger. As they rounded a corner, they came upon a massive chamber. In its center was a large, glowing console, its surface covered in alien symbols and pulsing with rhythmic energy. Kane's instincts told him this was important, perhaps the key to understanding their enemy. "Get to work," he ordered, motioning for the team's tech specialist. The specialist approached the console cautiously, her fingers hovering over the strange, glowing interface. "This isn't like anything I've ever seen," she said, her voice filled with awe. "It's not just a machine. It's some kind of organic technology." "Can you access it?" Kane asked. "I think so, but it'll take time." Outside, the situation was growing worse. The mechanical creatures were multiplying, their numbers swelling as more emerged from hidden alcoves and fissures in the ground. The remaining soldiers fought valiantly, their weapons blazing, but they were being overwhelmed. "Commander Morales," Kane said over the comm, his voice strained. "We need backup. Now." Aboard the Resolute, Morales wasted no time. "Dispatch reinforcements to the surface," she ordered, "and prepare for orbital support. If those things start overrunning our teams, I want to take them out from up here." Carter approached her, his expression grim. "Commander, we're spreading ourselves thin. If the enemy fleet decides to engage again while our forces are split..." "I know the risks," Morales replied. "But if Kane's team found something valuable down there, it could be the edge we need." Back on the surface, the tech specialist made progress. "I'm in," she announced, her fingers flying over the console. "This thing's a database. It's filled with schematics, battle data, and something else. Something bigger." "What is it?" Kane asked. The specialist hesitated, her face pale. "It's a map of the galaxy, and their targets." Kane's blood ran cold. "You mean?" "Earth is on it," she said quietly. "They're coming for us." Before anyone could react, the chamber began to shake violently. The walls pulsed brighter, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. "What's happening?" Kane demanded. "The structure is activating," the specialist shouted. "I think we triggered something." Above the planet, the Resolute picked up a new energy surge from the surface. "Commander," Yara said urgently, "something massive is powering up down there." "Pull our teams out," Morales ordered. "Now." As the reinforcements raced toward Kane's location, the ground beneath the alien base began to split open, revealing a massive, dormant machine buried deep within the planet. Its design was unmistakable. It was one of the Eaters of Suns. "We've got to move," Kane yelled, dragging the specialist away from the console. The team barely made it out of the structure as it began to collapse, the machine within stirring to life. Kane's last transmission was filled with static, but his words were clear. "Commander, they're waking up." The awakening. The ground rumbled beneath Kane's team as they sprinted through the ruins, the alien base collapsing behind them. Tendrils of dark energy shot upward from the fissure, casting an eerie glow against the ash-filled sky. The dormant machine within the planet, a massive eater of suns, was waking. "Move, move," Kane shouted, urging his squad forward. Debris rained down around them, and the mechanical creatures pursuing them only added to the chaos. The team burst into the open, where the Deathworlder reinforcements had landed moments earlier. Dropships hovered nearby, their side hatches open to provide cover fire. "This is it," Kane yelled. "Everyone, on board." Aboard the Resolute, Commander Morales watched the unfolding disaster on the main display. The ground near the alien structure had split wide open, revealing the massive machine buried beneath. Its size was staggering. It dwarfed anything the fleet had ever encountered. "Commander, we've got a problem," Yara reported, her face pale. "The energy readings from that thing, they're off the scale. If it fully activates, it could destroy the entire planet." Morales clenched her fists. "Can we disrupt it from orbit?" "Negative," Yara replied. "Its energy field is too strong. We'd need to disable it from the surface." Kane's team barely made it aboard the dropships as the mechanical creatures closed in. The gunner aboard the lead dropship opened fire, tearing through the pursuing swarm. Kane slumped into a seat, catching his breath. "What's the situation?" he asked the pilot. The pilot glanced at the growing fissure below. "Not good, sir. That thing's coming online, and fast." Kane activated his comm. "Morales, this is Kane. We've got the data, but we've got a bigger issue. There's a super weapon waking up down here, and it's not going to stay put." "We see it," Morales replied. "Can you get to its core and disable it?" Kane glanced at his team. They were exhausted, battered from the battle. But they were Deathworlders, and retreat wasn't in their nature. "We'll do what we can," Kane said, determination hardening his voice. The dropships returned to the surface, this time landing closer to the massive machine. The air was thick with heat and the metallic stench of alien technology. The machine loomed above them, its jagged surface pulsing with dark energy. "Let's move," Kane ordered, rallying his team. They made their way toward an opening at the base of the machine, using the terrain for cover. Mechanical sentries patrolled the area, their movements precise and unrelenting. "Targets ahead," Kane whispered. "Take them down quietly." The team moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing the sentries with silenced weapons. They reached the opening without incident, but the tension was palpable. The deeper they ventured, the more alien the environment became. The walls of the machine seemed to breathe, glowing faintly with each pulse of energy. "This place gives me the creeps," one soldier muttered. "Stay focused," Kane replied. "We're here to stop this thing, not admire the decor." As they reached the machine's core, the scale of the threat became clear. The core was a massive sphere of pulsating energy, suspended by tendrils of living metal. It radiated a power so intense that the team could feel it vibrating in their bones. The tech specialist approached the core cautiously, her equipment at the ready. "I can disrupt it," she said, "but it's going to take time. And once I start, this thing will know we're here." Kane nodded. "Do it. The rest of you, set up a perimeter. We're not leaving until this thing is offline." As the specialist worked, the machine began to react. The walls pulsed brighter, and a low, resonant hum filled the air. Kane's instincts screamed danger. "They know we're here," he said. "Get ready." The perimeter erupted in chaos as mechanical creatures poured in from hidden alcoves. The team fought with everything they had, their weapons blazing as they held the line. "How much longer?" Kane shouted over the noise. "Almost there," the specialist replied, frantically typing commands into her device. Aboard the Resolute, Morales monitored the team's progress. The energy readings from the machine were spiking, and its activation was accelerating. "Commander," Yara said urgently, "if they don't disable that core soon, the entire planet will go critical." Morales stared at the display, her mind racing. "Prepare a backup strike. If they fail, we'll hit that thing with everything we've got." "Commander," Carter interjected, "that could wipe out our team." "I know," Morales replied quietly, "but if that machine escapes, it's over for all of us." Back at the core, the specialist finally shouted, "I've got it. The disruption is in place." The core pulsed violently, its energy destabilizing. The entire structure began to shake, and cracks formed along its surface. "We need to get out of here," Kane yelled. The team fought their way back to the surface, the collapsing machine erupting behind them. They barely made it to the dropships as the ground gave way, swallowing the machine in a fiery explosion. As the dropships ascended, the team watched the machine's destruction from above. But their relief was short-lived. "Commander," Yara's voice crackled over the comm. "New energy readings detected. The Eaters of Suns fleet is moving." Morales' voice came through, calm and resolute. "Kane, get back to the ship. This fight isn't over yet." The enemy's advance. The Resolute trembled as the Deathworlder fleet repositioned, bracing for the inevitable confrontation. The alien fleet had begun to stir, their movements coordinated and deliberate. Across the bridge, alarms blared, and the crew worked tirelessly, preparing for battle. Commander Morales stood at the center of the chaos, her voice cutting through the noise. "Status report." Yara's fingers flew across her console. "Enemy fleet is converging on our position. Energy signatures indicate their weapons are powering up. They're not waiting. They are coming in hot." "Time to contact," Morales asked. 4 minutes, Yara replied grimly. In the dropships, Kane and his team were silent as they raced back to the Resolute. Their armor was scorched, their faces lined with exhaustion, but their resolve remained unshaken. Kane stared out the window, watching the massive enemy ships loom closer. "We're flying into a death trap," one soldier muttered, gripping his rifle tightly. Kane's voice was steady. "We're Deathworlders. We don't run from a fight." As the dropships docked, the crew scrambled to resupply and debrief the returning soldiers. Kane marched onto the bridge, his presence commanding attention. "Commander," he said, nodding to Morales, "the machine is neutralized, but it won't matter if we don't survive the next 10 minutes." Morales gestured to the display, where the alien fleet's approach was laid bare. "You're right on time. We're looking at a full-scale assault. If we can't hold the line, the rest of the galaxy is doomed." "Then we hold," Kane replied simply. The Resolute and the Deathworlder fleet moved into formation. The massive battleships bristled with weapons, their hulls reinforced to withstand the punishing blows of alien technology. Each crew member knew what was at stake. "Fleet-wide broadcast," Morales ordered. The comm officer nodded, and Morales's voice carried across every ship. "This is Commander Morales. Today, we stand as one. The enemy we face is relentless, but we are stronger. We are Deathworlders. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every world that can't. Hold the line. Make every shot count. And remember, this is our galaxy. They're just visitors." A cheer erupted across the fleet. The alien ships surged forward, their sleek, organic designs glinting under the dim light of the dying star. Their weapons unleashed a storm of energy blasts, cutting through the void with deadly precision. The Deathworlder fleet returned fire, their cannons roaring to life. Plasma beams and kinetic rounds lit up the battlefield, tearing through the enemy's frontline ships. The Resolute shook as enemy fire grazed its shields. "Shields holding at 78%, Yara reported. "Focus fire on the lead vessel," Morales ordered. "We need to break their formation." As the battle raged, the enemy's strategy became clear. They weren't just attacking, they were driving the Deathworlders toward the massive machine's remains. "They're hurting us," Yara said, her tone sharp with realization. "They want us close to that machine." "What's left of it?" Morales asked. "Not just the machine," Kane interjected, his voice grim. "The energy core is still active. They're trying to trigger it again." Morales's jaw tightened. "If that core detonates, we'll lose everything. How do we stop it?" "Their flagship," Kane said, pointing to the largest ship on the display. "It's controlling the energy field. Take it out, and we take away their control." The Resolute turned its focus to the enemy flagship, a massive serpentine vessel that dwarfed the other ships around it. Its hull was a dark, shifting material that seemed to absorb the light around it. "Target the flagship," Morales ordered. "All weapons on my mark." The Resolute unleashed its full arsenal, plasma beams lancing out to strike the flagship's shields. The enemy ship retaliated, its weapons hammering the Deathworlder fleet with devastating force. On the bridge of the Resolute, the tension was palpable. The flagship's shields held, and the Deathworlder fleet was taking heavy losses. "We can't break through," Yara said. "Their defenses are too strong." Kane stepped forward. "Then we take it from the inside." Morales met his gaze. "You're talking about a boarding mission." "It's our only chance," Kane said. "If we can disable their control systems, we can disrupt the energy field and turn the tide." Morales nodded, her expression resolute. "Do it." Kane and his team prepared for the mission, their dropship hurtling toward the enemy flagship under heavy fire. As they approached, the ship's defenses locked onto them, and the pilot wove through the chaos with practiced skill. "Hold on," the pilot shouted as the dropship dodged an incoming blast. The team braced for impact as the dropship slammed into the flagship's hull, its boarding clamps engaging. "Go, go, go," Kane yelled, leading his team into the breach. Inside, the alien ship was a labyrinth of shifting walls and glowing corridors. The team moved quickly, their weapons ready as they pushed toward the control room. Back on the Resolute, Morales watched the dropship's progress on the display. "They're inside," Yara said. "Now it's up to them." Morales nodded, her hands clenched into fists. "Hold the line. We can't let them down." He final stand. Inside the enemy flagship, Kane and his team advanced through its winding, alien corridors. The ship was alive, its walls pulsating with energy, as if responding to their presence. Strange whispers echoed around them, as though the ship itself was aware of the intruders. "Eyes sharp," Kane warned. "We're in their nest now." The team moved cautiously, scanning every corner for threats. Suddenly, the walls shifted, and a squad of alien defenders emerged, their tall, spindly forms bristling with advanced weapons. "Contact," Kane shouted. The corridor erupted in chaos as gunfire and alien energy bolts lit up the space. The Deathworlders fought with brutal precision, their instincts honed by years of surviving impossible odds. "They're trying to box us in," one soldier yelled. "Keep pushing forward," Kane barked. "We're close to the control room." On the Resolute, Commander Morales and her crew monitored the team's progress. The Deathworlder fleet was holding the line, but the battle was far from over. "Shields at 42%, Yara reported, her tone tense. "We can't take much more of this." "Reinforce the fleet's left flank," Morales ordered. "If we lose that, the flagship has a direct shot at us." The ship trembled as another volley of enemy fire struck the hull. Morales's gaze remained fixed on the display, where Kane's team was approaching their target. "Come on, Kane," she muttered. "We're running out of time." Inside the flagship, Kane's team reached the control room, a vast chamber filled with pulsating energy conduits and alien terminals. At the center was a massive console, glowing with a dark, menacing light. "This is it," Kane said, motioning for his tech specialist to move forward. As she began working on the console, the room came alive with a deep, resonant hum. Alien figures materialized from the walls, their forms shimmering as if pulled from another dimension. "They're defending the core," Kane shouted. "Hold them off." The team formed a perimeter, their weapons blazing as they fought to keep the aliens at bay. The specialist worked furiously, her fingers flying over the console. "This system is more advanced than anything I've seen," she yelled. "I need more time." "We don't have time," Kane replied, firing at an alien that lunged toward them. Aboard the Resolute, the battle had reached a critical point. The Deathworlder fleet was buckling under the relentless assault, and the flagship was preparing to fire a massive energy weapon. "Commander, the flagship is targeting us," Yara said urgently. "Divert all power to forward shields," Morales ordered. "We need to buy Kane more time." Back in the control room, the specialist finally shouted, "I've got it. I'm disabling their control systems now." The core began to pulse erratically, and the ship trembled as its systems started to shut down. The alien defenders faltered, their forms flickering as the disruption spread. "Fall back," Kane ordered. The team retreated toward their dropship, fighting off the remaining defenders as the ship's interior collapsed around them. The specialist's device emitted a high-pitched whine, signaling the core's destabilization. "We've got less than 2 minutes before this place blows," she warned. On the Resolute, Yara's console lit up with new readings. "The flagship's systems are failing. Their energy weapon is offline." A cheer erupted across the bridge, but Morales remained focused. "Signal the fleet. Focus all fire on the flagship. Let's end this." The Deathworlder ships unleashed a coordinated barrage, their weapons tearing through the enemy flagship's weakened defenses. Explosions rippled across its surface as the massive vessel began to break apart. Kane's team barely made it back to their dropship as the flagship disintegrated around them. The pilot pushed the engines to their limit, racing away from the collapsing vessel. "Hang on," the pilot shouted as a massive explosion erupted behind them, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The dropship rocked violently, but held together, finally docking with the Resolute. Aboard the Resolute, Kane and his team were greeted with cheers as they stepped off the dropship. Their armor was scorched, and their faces were lined with exhaustion, but they had succeeded. "Good work, Kane," Morales said, shaking his hand. "It's not over yet," Kane replied. "The fleet's still out there." Morales nodded, "But they just lost their biggest weapon. Now, it's our turn." The Deathworlder fleet, reinvigorated by their victory, pressed the attack. The alien ships, disorganized and leaderless, began to fall one by one. As the last enemy vessel was destroyed, a tense silence filled the void. The Deathworlders had done the impossible. They had turned the tide of the war. In the aftermath, Morales addressed the fleet. Today, we proved that no matter how strong the enemy, no matter how dire the odds, Deathworlders will always rise to the challenge. We fight for every world, every life, every chance at a future, and we will never stop. The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the hard-fought victory. Kane stood at a viewport, watching the debris of the enemy fleet drift away. The galaxy was safe, for now, but he knew the fight was far from over. As the Resolute set course for the next battle, Kane whispered to himself, "They'll remember today, the day Deathworlders refused to fall."